Hey everybody, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. It's been a little while since I've released a video. I've been going through a lot of personal evolution and transformation, and to be honest, most of the days I've just been needing to take naps. But it's all been good, it's all been positive. A lot of my deeper issues have been resolved, and at this point, it's just happily ever after. New person every single day. So, coming up to Father's Day, I was excited to call my father and, have a conversation and share some love with him. And I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to say until we have a little family chat. And there was a comment that was made that I got a little triggered by. And it was the perfect comment and perfect experience for me to really clearly see the pattern that we have going on in our relationship dynamic between the conscious intention to simply love each other and get along, and the sort of habitual programmed dynamic that we developed from my childhood, at least, in our relationship going forward. And so I got really clear on a lot of things from that, because it sparked a lot of ideas in my own mind. And as I was thinking of them, since I've got all this knowledge of how the universe works and the reflective nature, I was able to apply those things in that situation to get really, really clear on what's going on and how I want to interact with my father. Because it's been a challenge to interact growing up, and now I'm really, really seeing that it has nothing to do with him and everything to do with me. Because I wouldn't be offended by those comments if I didn't have that kind of insecurity or belief in myself, right? People say things and you don't get triggered by the ones that you don't care about or that you don't believe about yourself. So that was very enlightening. And also, just thinking, why can't he see me the way I want him to see me? And I was thinking, well, do I see him the way he wants to be seen? Right? When you think about the reflective nature, whatever I want in my relationship with my father, am I offering that to him too? If I want him to respect me, am I respecting him? If I want him to appreciate me, am I appreciating him? If I want him to, stop trying to put me in some sort of box about who he thinks I should be or what he thinks I should be doing, should I consider maybe not trying to put him in a box and, continue to try to reinforce some fantasy idea of who I think he should be? So I got really, really clear about, how he's really just reflecting exactly the same thing that I'm doing with him. And I was like, wow. If we're going to change this dynamic, then, I need to make sure that I'm taking that responsibility. At least, in a relationship, you've got 50% of the relationship. So I got to make sure that I'm taking 100% ownership of my 50%. And offering all the things that I would expect to receive in return, but not as some kind of manipulation. You got to be very careful when you do these things. A lot of people will offer these things to try to get some kind of effect or try to manipulate certain behavior out of others. But the whole idea is that you offer those things that you wish you would receive because the offering of it is what's satisfying to you. Even when it comes to advice, when you're giving somebody advice, it's like a gift. And when you give somebody a gift, it's none of your business what they do with it. And so if you have some sort of attachment to the outcome, then you're setting yourself up to be potentially disappointed. Now, in my specific case, I had a nice conversation with my dad and I shared a lot of things with him and it went really well. But that might not be the case with everybody. And so that's why I'm just offering that. If you're gonna, take my advice here and, perform the exercise I'm about to share with you, with your dad or your father, just take it as you're doing this for yourself and you're offering a gift to your father with no insistence on how your father is going to receive it. You're doing this because you enjoy giving this experience, because you want to give this. That's where the satisfaction comes in. So you're already satisfied with simply the offering, and that's it. Before I get into the meat of it, another thing that I thought was really funny or interesting was this feeling of, I wish me and my dad could just see eye to eye. Can we just see eye to eye? And I had this funny thought. It was like, well, I'm taller than my dad. So it's not gonna happen. And taller doesn't mean better. It just means taller. I have my own perspective. He has his own perspective. And this applies in any relationship. Everyone's got their own perspective and you have your perspective. And your perspective is like that gift that I was saying before. You offer your perspective as a gift and it's none of your business what anybody else does with it. And my middle name is Enugu, and it means the mountaintop, or the top of the mountain. And so from the top of the mountain, I can see the sunrise off in the distance. I can see the sun coming over the horizon, and the rays of the sun are entering my eyes. And so I have my own perspective of how things are. But anyone who's not at the top of the mountain yet, they may see the sky is getting brighter. They may see, some luminescence near the horizon, but they might not see the actual sun yet. And for many people, they're in a survival state where it's sort of seeing is believing, right? So until they actually see that thing with their eye clearly, directly, it's just a nice idea. So that was a really good analogy in my mind. It's like, okay, everyone has their own perspective, And even when the sun rises, from their perspective, my perspective of the sun is going to be completely different. So regardless of what the situation is, everyone's perspectives are always going to be different. And so if you want your perspective to be honored and respected, then you need to honor and respect the perspectives of others. So with that, I decided to focus on the things about my father that I appreciate, the things from his life story and from my personal experience with him that I'm grateful for. And if I really, really took the time, I'm sure I could write a whole book. But with the time that I spent, I came up with just a few pages that I was able to share with him earlier today. And I'd like to share them with you in hopes that maybe you can do this exercise and find a sense of connection with your father inside yourself, or to grow that connection even deeper. I am grateful for my father. I love the way my father washes his hands. As a kid, watching the way my father washed his hands so thoroughly and completely was something I took note of. You could see the strength and attention to detail as he rubbed both of his hands together, made sure they were very clean. He'd flick the water off and then take the rag and wipe his hands down. My father is clean. I remember how my father would use a small stream of water to collect every last bit of material from the blender to put in his soup. Just to make sure he get every last bit and put it in there. My father is efficient. I remember a story about how my father was able to provide a contract to build tents for a military officer. When they asked about the tents, his business partner said, "Oh, we don't have any." But remembering some materials he would see on the highway every day, just passing by on the side of the road, he quickly pulled his partner to the side and said, No, we have tents. Tell them we have tents." And they were able to have a contract, and they went and bought the, just random materials, and they built tents out of them and got themselves a contract. My father is resourceful. My father is witty too. I love the story about how my father came to the US. He was at the embassy speaking to an agent about importing foreign building materials. And the way he was describing how he was going to do it, the agent looked at him and said, "You're too smart for this. Here's a catalog of universities in the US. Why don't you apply to them? I'm sure you will be accepted by many of them." Yeah, my father is a hustler. My father is intelligent too. I am grateful that despite the large cultural differences, my father allowed dozens of primary school kids to run around in his house so that his children could celebrate their birthdays. He allowed us to trick or treat on Halloween and run around and knock on strangers' doors in the middle of the night. And have sleepovers at our friends' houses whose parents could be anyone that you might have heard of on the news, among many other things. My father is compassionate. My father taught me to be wary of all kinds of tricks that people may play or try to take advantage of. All kinds of weird things that people would do. And he gave me the information about at a young age. So I was always wary of all that stuff. And I have been able to avoid many, many problems in my life because of it. And most of the stories that I hear are secondhand stories, because I keep my shit tight. And I offer the same advice to my friends. My father is wise. I remember a time my parents returned from a Christmas party for my mom's work, and he gave us a short replay of his performance at the party of "What a Wonderful World." And he was wearing a nice suit and everything, standing in the hallway. I was like, man, my father is charismatic. I love that despite the pain he may have experienced in his life, he is still able to show up and greet clerks and shopkeepers and people in all walks of life, just in day-to-day interactions with a friendly hello. I always loved how he said that. My father is resilient. I love the smell of the aspen cologne in the hallway after my father passed through on his way to work, holding his briefcase, all dressed up, getting in his classy car to drive to his office for his business. Yeah, my father has class. My father has discipline too. I remember a time my father had me and my brother go in and out of the back door to our house 20 times in a row. So we would stop banging the door every time we ran outside. He reminded us to lock it too. So every single time we open the door, go outside, close it gently, and lock it. We go back inside, close it gently, and lock it. My father is gentle. My father is safe too. I remember a time when we had just landed in Nigeria. This was when I was about 8 years old, back in like 1998. And we had been stopped at a police checkpoint. The men were cocking their guns and making a scene, probably asking for bribes or something like that. And this late at night, we just got in. It was like maybe 10 p.m., 12 p.m., something like that. You know, it was dark outside. I don't know if there was anybody else around. I was just a small kid sitting inside the car, and my dad's out there talking to these guys with his family in the car. And eventually he was able to defuse the situation, and they allowed us to pass. My father is fearless. I love the time I spent doing construction work with my father. We had many properties that we bought, in my late teens, and we did a lot of remodeling and demolition work and, pulling up carpets, laying tiles, framing up walls, blasting concrete, pouring concrete, sanding, painting, you name it. I learned many things and now have the ability to get up any day if I want to and just go build a house. From foundation to fixtures. And make it look good. My father is experienced. I remember a time my father continued to help me design and build my physics project, even though I had an attitude at the time, and even helped drive it to school and carried it all the way to the school track with me. My father is supportive. My father has offered support and assistance to many members of the family and community over the years, whether it's a ride to work or bringing individuals from Nigeria to the US, or covering somebody's school fees, or building somebody a house, or creating a community hall. My father is giving. My father offered us the opportunity to grow up in a beautiful 2-story house, complete with 2-car garage and a swimming pool in the backyard, with a slide and a diving board. And when his business was successful, he remodeled the interior with new carpets, classy leather couches, and all kinds of nice furniture. We had this huge table. We still have that table today. It's beautiful, beautiful table, dining room table. We put tile in the kitchen, and we replaced the swimming pool surface with pebble tack, which was really, really hot at the time. Yeah. My father emphasized our education and supported us with every amenity he could possibly provide. My father is loving. My father came from the village, survived a civil war as a child soldier, educated himself, and hustled his way to the other side of the world. Picked up a beautiful white Mormon lady at the disco. He survived prejudice and all manner of hardship, both physical and mental. He ran his own business and created his own inventions. He raised a family and stuck around despite all the cultural challenges he faced. And he continues to build upon his legacy even to this day. My father is legendary. I thank God for my father, and I am honored to have the opportunity to be his son. Happy Father's Day, Dad. And to all the fathers around the world, I love you. So hopefully you guys can take a note from that. I just did a list of qualities and attributes that I appreciated about my father, but it felt a little bit empty. So I wanted to put a story to each of those qualities, something that I have a memory about, or a story that he had told me, or something to put more juice into it, make it more real. And this is something that I can come back to anytime I feel like complaining about something that my father has done or said, and just remind myself of who I'm talking to. I'm talking to my father. I love you, Dad.